welcome to the Payroll Podcast with your host, Nick Day of JGA Recruitment, specialist payroll recruiters.
Hello and welcome to the Payroll Podcast. My name is Nick Day from James Gray Associates, Specialist Payroll Recruiters, and I'm sat here at the American Payroll Association 37th Congress in the exhibition hall with ADP. You have a very big stand, I have to say. I'm with the VP of Payments, Anthony Peculic, and he's going to talk to me a lot today around about the future of pay. Yes. So for those who are regular listeners to the Payroll Podcast, you know we're really passionate about talking about the future of the industry. So hopefully we can give you a little bit of insight in terms of what ADP are doing on the global payroll scene. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your background so far. Give people a bit of context, Anthony, about how you came to be part of ADP and how you've moved up to the level of VP.
Sure. I've been in the payment industry for about 19 years now.
Okay.
So I started very young. I've gone from credit, working with various different people, both in the affluent and in the lower income segments.
Okay.
I've been in prepaid for 10 years now. Been at ADP for about 6. Really excited. We've launched a couple products since I've been here.
Okay.
The first one was our Align card, which was really going after those that do not have bank accounts in the United States. So we have tens of millions of Americans that are underbanked, and really driving the market there and being one of the top providers there. Recently, we acquired Global Cash Card about a year and a half ago, which was another big contender or competitor in the space. Together, we formed a new payments organization within ADP, really focused on the future of pay, and we call it Wisely.
Okay,
Yes.
So for those listeners in the UK or in Europe, we're not quite so familiar with the pay card sort of process of payments, but obviously over here, a lot of Americans don't have bank accounts, so it's a way of giving them a payroll payment. So how's that evolved? How, if we were in the UK or somewhere else and perhaps we're new to this kind of technology, talk to me about how the pay card as a process of payment has evolved in the payroll industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And yes, for those of you in other countries, mostly you are pretty banked, as they say.
Yeah.
Most of you do have some sort of banking account. Here in the United States, we did have about, I would say probably 40 to 50 million Americans at some point that were just receiving the traditional paychecks.
Sure.
Up to maybe 10 years ago. What was happening is that, a lot of people felt left out with the internet and with e-commerce. A lot of folks were feeling left out in terms of being able to go on shop online, to do things that everyone else was able to do,
Yep.
right, with a traditional bank account. So we felt that we had to go back and really look at, how do we provide a bank account substitute solution, right, that was effective,
Sure.
but it was also providing the things that everyone expects, right? We weren't trying to make this a lower form of a bank account, right? We wanted to provide all the bells and whistles,
Yeah.
but at the same time, we have to remain compliant, right? So in the United States, we have 50 states.
Yeah, of course.
We have jurisdictions, so it's not like other countries where there are national laws. Our payroll laws are actually done at the state level.
Sure.
And sometimes local. And so you have to correspond and deal with those as well, which makes it even more complex. Where some states allow you to give a choice of a direct deposit account and a card, where most states do require still a check to be an option.
Sure.
So it's really a mix of trying to convince someone, right, that this is a better option for
Sure.
them versus getting a traditional paycheck.
Not a million miles away from global payroll, from what I'm used to.
Yes.
Different countries, different
That's
regions,
right.
different rules. So you kind of, US payroll is like a global payroll on its own.
Exactly.
Someone was telling me about Pennsylvanian payroll with like 2,600 tax rules, right?
Yes, that's right, exactly.
It's pretty complex.
Yes.
Now, I know something you guys are quite excited about is the introduction of on-demand pay.
Yes.
So you offer fully compliant instant pay solutions.
Yes.
Can you tell listeners a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I think that, so right now in the economy and what we're looking at in the environment today, the Uber and Lyfts of the world and other organizations, right, have started to look at, how do I get my pay sooner, right? I want to be instantly paid. I just drove for 2 straight days,
Sure.
and I don't want to wait till Friday. I have to go on, a big date, or I have a big vacation trip planned. I need to pull that money, right? So those organizations were able to provide, because they are 1099s, they are not necessarily full-time employees, but still they're able to provide access to funds and wages sooner. I think the ability for us to compete with that, but do so in a compliant manner, is what we've been constantly looking at over the last few years. So both with our pay card, our clients can instantly fund these pay cards, right, on the spot. So if they have to pay someone for some reason,
Sure.
they could put money and put it on. But really, there's other alternatives out there as well that we're looking at, right, in terms of what's happening in the market. People are requesting what we call early pay.
Yep.
So they've earned, 10 hours of work. they want to be able to take a portion of that out, right?
Sure.
So these are all things that, we're looking at from a partnership perspective, but also looking at where do we play in that space, because, we do service over 700,000 clients in this country alone.
Sure. Yeah, it's
and
big.
so exactly. So we have clients of all different ranges, but this is probably the hottest topic right now.
Okay.
Right? It's the whole ability to be able to provide on-demand pay and to do so. We launched a new product called Wisely Now,
Yep.
which is the start. One of the biggest needs for instant pay in this country is unfortunately a situation in which, when employees do leave or they're terminated.
Yep.
In states such as California, this beautiful state,
Sure.
you do have a lot of regulations associated with how you can pay someone, because they have to be paid on the day that they leave.
Okay.
Fully by the end of
Wow.
business. Yeah. And
Wow,
so
well, that's quick.
It's quick. And so, so clients are, in situations are faced where if you can't do it, you actually have to either keep people on for more and pay them more, or you have to overnight packages or overnight checks
Wow.
and do all that. So there's a major expense associated with
Sure.
it. So we combined it. We provided an ability to do something instant, so they can hand an employee something that is compliant, that they can use immediately,
Yeah.
but something that could be funded on the spot as well, right?
Okay.
And that's what Wisely Now is.
So we're starting to see similar things in the UK, not necessarily in pay cards. I did a podcast recently with a guy called Peter Briffett, who's CEO of a company called WageStream,
Yes.
and they're offering instant pay solutions in their quest, if you like, to eliminate payday loans, because people struggle, they don't get paid instantly, so they're taking huge high interest loans out. So I don't know much about the pay card on pay solution, but is there a cost involved in having instant pay? Does it cost the employee in any way, or how is that made available to the employee in the States?
Yeah, so there is an expense. However, to your point, payday lenders have been, taking advantage of consumers for a long time.
Sure.
Very high interest rates or fees associated with those disbursements. I think when you look at comparably, it's a much lower cost. It's usually a transactional cost.
Okay.
It's a one-time transactional fee that is provided to do these, and it's very reasonable. I think when you consider other services or other things that are out there, it's actually less than a lot of things you would imagine.
Okay.
Look, I think at the end of the day, it's very critical for us to ensure that, from a financial wellness perspective, whatever ADP supports, I will tell you that, and others in the industry, right, our brothers and sisters here, that they all feel the same way. We should never take advantage of of the consumer. And the workers, they need to have access to this, but they need to do so at, for a low cost. Otherwise, again, you're putting yourself in the same situations that they're facing today.
Yeah, sure. I think that's really well put. I know that I read on I think the ADP site, and I spoke to one of your colleagues who you based some of your solutions on a recent or some ADP research, which was by the called the Global Evolution of Pay Study, and I think on that found that 79% of employees want to work for an employer that cares about their financial wellness, which you very well mentioned, and 98% of employees agree it has a direct impact on their employer.
Pay is no longer a disbursement, I keep saying. It's no longer just a necessity. Everyone obviously has to get paid, right,
Sure.
if you work, hopefully. And so, but at the end of the day, you as an employer now, you're faced with the situation of employees are expecting a lot more. We are now seeing a shift of the workforce. Millennials will be more than half the workforce within the next 5 or so years,
Sure.
right? You're having Gen Z, enter the workforce as well. Expectations are very high that an employer is not just saying, oh, well, I'm going to direct deposit or here's a check. They want you to be able to provide them with solutions that are going to make their lives that better, because they're giving a lot more than previous generations are, right, to their employer.
Sure.
So there's this sense and need to be able to provide these tools. But at the end of the day, an employer should not take that responsibility, right? They should look at people like us who are doing this research and really understanding what the needs of the workers are. And pay is such a big point, right? There's the one thing I always tell people, that's the one thing you can't mess up.
Sure.
You can't mess up people's pay, right? Because that is the first thing they'll complain
That messed
about.
up people's lives as well, right? So
That's exactly,
right.
and especially in this situation, these folks are lower income. They
Sure.
they live paycheck to paycheck. Getting a paycheck even 2 hours late sometimes could be a matter of emergency. So I think at the end of the day, it's really about urgency, and it's also about providing tools and having them find ways to save their money and be better with their money. And that's what we're trying to do, overall in the long term.
Fantastic. Well, very, very well put. And it's great that we've got businesses like ADP that are caring about financial wellness.
Einstein famously said that insanity was doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We believe it's time to try a new approach to recruitment. JGA Recruitment specialise in recruiting the top 15% of payroll and HR talent using innovative 24/7 attraction strategies that are proven to improve quality of hire, candidate retention and return on investment. De-risk your recruitment process today and hire better talent faster with JGA Recruitment. Visit jgarecruitment.com to find out more.
Now, you mentioned in your response there, the Gen Z, the new guys coming into payroll. ADP has to be one of the biggest payroll employers, if not the biggest, globally, for people to bring in payroll people into the industry. Now, certainly in the UK, I think there's an issue in terms of trying to attract the Gen Z into payroll as a career. Yeah. Clearly, I'm opposite yourself at VP level, so it's been very successful for you, and you're not necessarily working as a payroll manager, but it shows there are many routes to market within payroll. It can open many opportunities. Sure. What would you say to someone who is considering payroll as a career choice, and how would you encourage them to choose it, number one? Yeah. And what are ADP doing to encourage the next generation of payroll professionals coming to the market?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So, I mean, if I look at payroll as it's getting more exciting, right? And I think that, look, there's always challenges with payroll, sure. Right? It's definitely not a job that's day to day the same, no. Right? And the payroll managers will tell you that more and more again. But I think that if you think about the industry as a whole, and the importance of it, right? So if you're thinking about a career in which I'm playing such a big part in my life, and of course, we all volunteer time, hopefully we do sure. all those types of things, but when we go to work, you think about this, there's nothing more important, as I said before, as making sure someone gets paid, sure, right, and gets paid right. I think that now you're thinking about all these other tools and all these other products that are coming about. We do want younger people to come in, right, and provide their views, because they're the ones that are driving what's going to happen in the next 20 years.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's really critical for those in Gen Z and anybody else to start thinking about, payroll is a great career. It's a great place to be. And it's widespread. It's not just traditional payroll manager, right?
Absolutely.
You can go into different things like payments, wage payments, or you can go into things like other things that are related to service. There's so many careers in the industry. And I think this association in itself, right, the APA, and what the APA does to broaden its horizons, if you will,
sure,
and its population is really critical, and it's important for all of us, like ADP, to continue to be, a top sponsor of the APA, to continue to be involved in chapters and all the things that happen in the United States, and as well as globally. And that's what we're going to continue to do, is to continue to commit to making sure that payroll is always top of mind for our companies.
Well, that's really, really encouraging to hear, and excellent for that the big brands are doing that, 'cause it's so important for the future, right? Sure. But you mentioned the APA. Obviously, we're here in a huge exhibition hall. ADP have one of the biggest, if not the biggest stand. It's very big, it's very prominent as you walk in. If I was to walk in as a payroll professional, what would I be looking to come to ADP for right now? I'm a payroll manager, I've come to Congress for the first time, I've come into exhibition hall. What would I come to you for?
I think at the end of the day, it's really about innovation, right? It's about service, right? And it's about, taking your employees and doing what's best for them at the end of the day. If you look across ADP and the investments we're making, sure, from a technology perspective, again, continuing to be the service company we've always been known as, right? But anything even from a marketing perspective, you see our new branding. This is the introduction of our new branding to the APA. Really we're focused on thinking about what are people working for and what are they driving to do, right? That's what we're starting to realize, is that, yes, the clients are most important, but to the clients, the importance is the workers, right? The associates that they have working for them, whether they be full-time or just part-time. That's what we're really focused on. So we have a dual focus. We're constantly looking at everything, but now we have an even more increased focus on the actual worker.
Okay.
So the tools we're developing are from the worker up, right? And so the client can now know that we actually talk to workers, we understand what they need, and we're going to build tools and do whatever we can to fit that need, versus worrying just about administration, right?
Sure.
Which is there as well. Sure. And so it's a tough mix. You have to look at it, but like again with ADP, what we're trying to drive is that we're placing a lot of bets in a lot of places, including in the pay side, the future pay, yeah, which we feel is so critical, because we feel at the end of the day, that's where we need to be for everyone out there.
Are there any other exciting technological innovations that we should see come into the market that we can prepare for, that you're allowed to announce yet, or is it a little bit secret squirrel?
There's some secrets. But I'll tell you, look, we're looking at a lot of things. I mean, whether it be from an AI perspective, we have a lot of folks in our tech hubs looking at
sure,
artificial intelligence. I think if you think about service in itself, the changing of service to be more self-service, not to say you take away the people behind it, but I think the ability to self-serve in many different ways, differences from just traditional chat to doing more like messaging to
sure,
things of that nature. Look, we rolled out our new app, My Wisely, as well for our business, and that's about financial wellness, right? And it's about bringing more tools and cool items to budget, to do things better, to understand how you spend. So there's a variety of things that is really exciting. I mean, it's a really exciting time for us at ADP. We can't wait for the future to come soon enough, and we're starting to execute on it, and you're starting to see a lot of the stuff that's happening. But I think at the end of the day, the whole piece about paying people, the instant aspect, real time, those are going to be key factors in driving what we're trying to do in a strategy.
Sure, I think that's definitely one of the biggest changes we're going to see in the UK and probably globally is that instant payment piece coming into play. If you could predict the market 24 months or even beyond right now, and you came in to predict how it would look, what are the major changes you would see, or what do you think will be? How do you think this Congress will look 2 years from now? What are the major changes that are going to hit the industry?
I think the major ones are going to be things like I mentioned before, artificial intelligence starting to play a role in how we do business.
Yeah.
And making things more efficient. I think that you're going to see, from a payments perspective, not to be selfish, but I'm a payments geek. I'm a payments geek, so I'll tell you about payments. I think, look, you're going to see a lot more use of mobile wallet usage. You're going to see a lot of folks doing more self-service. The apps are going to become, normally you get 30, 40, 50% usage. I think you're going to start to see much higher usage with a different workforce coming into play in the next few years. And again, from an overall perspective, I think what you're going to start to see is a lot of tools and a lot of things that are going to, it's going to be more about not adding more features, but actually sometimes even taking away to make people's lives easier, right? Because they're now doing more than they did before. And I think that's what's going to see. It's all going to be about efficiency. It's going to be about, and again, it's going to be about innovation.
And improving the user experience by the sounds of it.
Absolutely.
So I have to ask, how's the Congress been for you? How's the exhibition been? It's been, I've seen a lot of footfall come through ADP wall here. You've got beautiful plush leather bar stools, which we're sat on now talking. Well, these have all been full all day. But how's it been?
It's been exciting. It's every year is exciting. We get a good crowd. We get some excitement going, and we have a new team that we joined a year and a half ago, our global cash team, now part of ADP as well. And I think the energy that they bring, along with the energy of our ADP folks, is it's contagious.
Yeah.
I think again, it's good to see a lot of folks, and I actually think it's good to see you are seeing a change in generation as well. I'm seeing a lot of younger people.
Sure.
And I think it's great. I think one of the industries is great is you look at it from a female versus male perspective. I think it's there's a lot of female payroll managers, and I think that's a great thing. I think it's fantastic from a diversity perspective. So it's great to continue to see that evolve. And like I said, it's been really exciting. Great to be here as always.
I spoke to the founder of Solergo, Michelle.
Yes.
another female entrepreneur making waves. Of course, ADP partnered with. Yes. So now it's part of your global payroll solution. You've got so many arms to ADP when it comes to payroll.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, there's in abundance here, and it's really good to see that you're really progressing the market.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, listen, I mean, that kind of covers us for me today. It's been great to chat with you to learn a little bit more about instant payment here in the US. I think for those in the UK that want to come out here, it's a real eye-opener. And it's really good to see that you're pushing the market. So thanks for joining me today on the Payroll Podcast. And it's been a pleasure to have you. Cheers.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Payroll Podcast with Nick Day of JGA Recruitment, specialist payroll recruiters. If you would like to feature on a future podcast, please contact us. For a wealth of world-class payroll content, please visit us at jgarecruitment.com. See you next week.